When you have those specific conversations, it gets people's wheels turning, and then they become a little more curious. Can you tell me more about that? Like, what do you mean? And then you start to explain to them how you can help them become in a better financial position, and now you're a lot more interesting to them, rather than, hey, if you're looking to buy or sell, let me know. Nobody really has a plan. There's nothing wrong with you jumping right into the phone calls. Nothing at all. But do you have the time and the work ethic to be consistent with it every single day? Because people say, you know, I'm a dabble, I'm gonna do a couple calls, maybe 2 times a week I'll make my calls. It just doesn't work. It really doesn't. And you become very frustrated with it, and you're like, screw that, I don't want to do it anymore. Well, why did it work for you? Well, I did it for 2 days a week, you know, 3 or 4 hours at a time. In order to really have the success and feel good about it, you gotta pretty much be doing it every day. Making the calls over and over and over and over and over again. Come up with systems, come up with a, you know, a rhythm. And then that's when it becomes fruitful.
Gotcha.
But there are other ways to get the business, you know. So you said you have Sphere, and you have a couple people in your sphere who might possibly
came out of work. Now they want to find out how much equity they have, and if it's the right amount, they're gonna sell. So.
And how did you follow up that conversation?
Well, it started with, you know, we're kind of thinking about it. We might have this. I was like, well, why don't I take a look at this for you, find out exactly what it might be worth, and I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Well, we're not sure. No worries. I'm just gonna take a look.
Okay.
Get the information.
So that's when the questions become very important.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just saying like, oh, fantastic, I'll tell you what your home is worth, the best thing would have been to do is to say, I'm curious, you know, how much equity would you need to have in your home?
I actually did ask that.
Okay, what did they say?
Well, one of them, he said he bought it cheap from his grandparents. He thinks he has about 100 in there.
Yeah, but what does he need? So what do you need in order to make something happen? What are you looking for?
Gotcha.
Because it's just like, hey, I just want to know what my equity is. It's
right.
like, okay, yeah, that's fine, but
I gotcha.
what's the magic number? What are you looking to do? Because they might just say, well, I just want to know what it's worth. Okay, cool. Now that you have the power, now that you have the information, what do you do with it?
Right.
It helps if you know what their goals are, what they're trying to achieve. Be like, do you currently live in that home? You know, and if you do live in it, do you like it? Do you like the area? Do you want to move away from there? And you know, if you did move away from there, where would you want to go? How much money would you want to spend each month? Especially if you're in a position where you're not prepared.
Right.
And you're like, okay, before they start asking me a million questions, let me start asking them the questions. Because once you start asking the questions, you kind of set a pace and you kind of lead it down the road where you're looking to bring it, rather than maybe an unprepared seller or unprepared buyer asking you random questions that don't necessarily make a difference.
Right.
So just like, where do you live now? An ideal world, if you could, where would you like to live? Why is that important to you? What would be the magic number? How much money would you need, do you think, in order to make that purchase? Because somebody's like, well, there's a really nice house we like, it's $300,000, we want to buy it, you know, so on and so forth. Most people will think, oh, I need 20% down to buy a home.
Right.
So they're thinking, okay, if I need that, I need a good chunk in order to buy this house. No, not really. You could buy it with 10% down. You do 5% down. You do 3.5%, 3%. So when you start saying things like that, they're like, oh, okay, that'd be cool. So maybe I'd have enough equity where I could use part of it for a down payment. I could put the rest in the bank or whatever I want to do with it. Like, yeah, absolutely. Right. So it's just what leads to an interesting conversation. So Monday through Friday, you're available to work in real estate. You want to focus on cold calls, and you want to prepare yourself that if you do get an appointment from those cold calls, you be prepared, know what to say and how to do it. Okay, that's fine. We can get you there, but you will have to crash and burn a few times first.
Of course.
You're just gonna have to go and be like, that was the most awful experience ever.
Right.
But you're like, but I did it. I know what sellers are gonna say and what it feels like in there.
Yeah.
And then the most important thing too, get a list of common questions sellers ask real estate agents when listing their home.
Okay.
If they say these are the common questions that are asked, chances are you're going to get asked those questions.
Where can I get a list?
Google.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Common questions sellers ask when listing their home for sale. Now, if you find out what questions are typically asked, then you're going to do your research and find the best answers for all those questions. So you just have to know how to combat all those, and you got to know what questions are most important to sellers when selling their home. So another way agents get a listing is they say, seller, what do you think your home is worth? And the seller says, well, we were hoping we can get $350. And they're like, yep, it's listed for $350, right? Even though they know it's only worth about $320.
Right.
Okay. There's agents that are willing to list the property at the seller's price, so the seller feels satisfied that they got an agent who would get them the most money. But in reality, the market will only allow what the market will allow.
Right.
So I'm just like, well, if anybody tells you that they could get you more than $320, chances are they're just telling you what you want to hear.
Right.
And they're thinking that once you sign this 6-month agreement, maybe 3 weeks later I can convince you to reduce your list price. So in the real estate thing, it's like, hey, looking to buy or sell, I know anybody that needs to buy or sell, have them give me a call. And how many of those individuals are you taking their contact information and you touching them on a regular basis?
Just the people that I'm looking at.
Yeah. So all those times you're like, hey, yeah, I'm in real estate. Here, let me give you my card. Let me give you my card. It's a lost cause just because you're not controlling the conversation when it takes place again the next time. Because they have your information, but do you have their cell phone number? Do you have their email? Because you should be stopping in, calling on them, emailing them, texting them regularly until it's time for them to make a purchase. So before you give your information, take their information.
Okay.
Now you control the pace of the conversation. Also, if you say looking to buy or sell, no one's ever really looking to buy or sell unless you have a eureka moment and you actually do talk to somebody and they're like, you know what? Funny you mentioned that because we're actually looking for houses right now.